Good evening, and welcome to the Friends Supporting Prescott Unified School District's Future PAC live stream. I'm Scott Fagan. I'm the PAC chair. My wife is Mandy Fagan. She is teaches high school math in the middle school, and I have a daughter that is a freshman, Marley Fagan. And we're just excited to be here tonight, and we're thankful that you've taken time out of your evening.
Thank you. My name is Jenna James. I'm a former teacher. My husband is the music director at Mile High, and I have two girls at Abaya Jed. I'm also the Abaya Jed PTA president and vice president and the president of the PUSD Education Foundation. So to say that I am all in and invested in the state of Prescott schools, maybe even might be an understatement.
Thanks, Jenna. So I wanted to just kind of set some expectations for you on this live stream. We want to try and not keep you more than 30 minutes. And we would like to talk about overrides past and present, the present initiative. We want to talk about why it's important. And then Jenna is going to talk to you about how you can get involved to support us in this initiative. Throughout the live stream, if you would like to ask questions, we have a chat box, and you can get onto that chat box, and we're going to be monitoring that through the live stream. And at the very end of the program, we will answer as many questions as we can. So what is an override is where I would like to just start. Schools get funded by a multiplier. So there's a base level, and then it's multiplied times the number of students in the district. And that's it. That's the funds that the school gets. So if a school wants to increase their budget, the only way to do that is to go to the voters and have them pass an initiative of an override, which is exactly what we did in 2015. In 2015, we passed a 4.66% override, and that got the teachers and staff of the district an increase in pay. And it did a lot of great things. That is good for 5 years when you pass an initiative, and then you have to have it re-voted on by the voters. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about what the 2015 initiative did. From the 2014-15 school year to the 2019-20 school year, the passing of the 4.66% override in 2015 reduced teacher turnover by 39.4%. And here's why that is really significant. It improved teacher continuity. Everybody that works for an organization or is a part of an organization knows that lower turnover improves continuity. And when you have improved continuity, you have better lesson planning with the teacher teams. My wife, as I mentioned, is a school teacher in middle school at Mile High, and I watched her and her team with the high school math team work all summer long to try and work on a program and a curriculum for this fall. So having those tight-knit teams is huge, because when that happens, we have improved lesson planning. And when there's improved lesson planning, there's improved test scores because the kids are being taught better. And when there's improved test scores, we end up having higher college entrances, higher graduation rates, and better district ratings. So there's definitely a waterfall that happens from having an increase in an override. Our teachers, despite the approval by the voters in 2015 of the 4.66% override, still earn $6,300 on average less than the state average in Arizona. And that's arguably in a community where we all know the cost of living is higher than the state average. So we've got a lot to overcome. And thankfully, our Board of Regents have recognized that and have asked for a ballot initiative to give the teachers an increase to 8%, and that's what this override is. So it's a 3.34% increase. And what that does is it gets the teachers and staff halfway there. They're $6,300 below the state average. It gets them halfway back up to the state average. And for all the reasons that I mentioned with regards to education, we believe that this is a very important initiative. I also just want to address something that has come out through this initiative, and that was with regards to pay on the administration. And it's been, I guess, batted about that our administration makes so much money, and that's just not the case. They've done a lot with less in the administrative area of the school district as well. In the state of Arizona, the average administrator makes about $545 per student, and the national average is $945. So well below the national average, and so much below the national average that we rank 50th out of 50 states. So I just wanted to address that. And I also want to address this. If this initiative does not pass, then we have to cut $1 million out of our budget. That's just the bottom line of what would happen in our district. And we don't want to see that happen. So at this time, I want to pitch it to Jenna, and she is going to talk about how you guys can get involved and help us in this initiative.
Thanks, Scott. So the question you may be having is, how can I help? Or what can I do to help with the override besides voting yes? You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at PUSD 2020 Override. Like and share our posts, comment your support, and then encourage your friends, family, and followers to also share the content and to vote yes. We also have a website, www.pusd2020override.com, and you have a whole bunch of options to get involved there on the website. At the very top, you have the option to donate now to help this initiative get passed. You can also find out how is this going to impact you directly and individually. We have an override calculator on the website where you can put in your home address and find out what will be your personal tax increase for the year and even to a daily rate.
Absolutely.
Other things you can do. You can help us paint the town blue and gold next week. You can pick up yard signs and your car magnets. Come find me. I will be driving around town with this on my car starting tomorrow. We are holding this in the parking lot of United Methodist Church. Next Wednesday, September 23rd, you drive through, you pick up your yard sign, we'll slap a magnet on the back of your car anytime between 4:30 and 6 o'clock in the evening. If you need more details, including the address for United Methodist Church, check out our Facebook event page. And lastly, vote yes. That's what it comes down to. Vote yes. No matter how you plan to vote, whether you're doing early ballot or you're going to vote in person, vote yes. Encourage your friends and family who have this on their ballot to do the same.
Good job, Jenna. I just want to address one last thing before we go to questions. So when you vote yes, what does that mean? And how does the money work in this? Well, what we are asking is for the landowners in our community to pay for this. And I want to just talk in kind of simplistic terms about that real quick. The tax is actually based on 10% of the assessed value of your home. And that's a real key point that I want to make sure that everybody understands here. The assessed value of your home and the value of your home are two different things. The average assessed value of a home in Prescott is $275,000. That home might be worth $400,000 or $450,000. So don't get that confused. And this increase, this 3.34% increase, means about a 5 cent per day increase in taxes for you, which comes out to about $23 a year on the average assessed home in Prescott. So I think it's well worthwhile, and I think it's a needed thing. We've given you all the reasons and ways that you can get involved. And at this time, we would like to take some questions if there are any.
I got a couple questions that came in.
Great.
Start with the difference between the override and the invest in ed.
Okay, so we're being asked the difference between the override and the invest in ed. And to the best of our knowledge, the override is kind of what I told you, that we control it in our community. It's something that we can make the difference, and we have all control of it. Invest in Ed is a great initiative, and it would be great for our district to get money from that initiative. But there's a couple of things that we can't count on. We can't control it. We can't control the vote, where you can control the vote here for our community. And we can't control how much money will be divided up for our district, whereas we know exactly what we would get in our district with the initiative that we're talking about here tonight.
Invest in Ed is also proportionately for the entire state. So when you're talking about from a competitive piece, if it goes up proportionally, we're still well below the state average if the override doesn't follow suit.
So it's been commented that it's based on proportionally with all the districts within the state. And so if it is passed, the proportion that we would get would still leave us well below the state average for our teachers. So it's great. It would help and it would give us a boost. But we would also argue that this initiative for the override is something that we can control, and we know exactly how it's going to affect our district.
More questions regarding, are the funds from the override going to be used exclusively for teacher salary or administrative salary as well?
It's all staff, just like it was in 2015, just like every raise that we've ever given in the past 20 years.
So the question about how the funds would be used, would they be used for anything other than salaries, is that it would be all staff, so teachers and staff.
One more here. Can you describe what happens if the override doesn't pass?
I'll go ahead and take that one. So the question we have is, what happens if the override does not pass? So because this was a voter-approved initiative in 2015 that allowed the district to provide raises for teachers, if we do not pass this next ballot initiative, then the district is looking at cutting $1 million from their budget every year.
And how will the override help our community?
I'll take that one if I can.
Sounds great.
How will the override affect our community? And I think this is a really key question because it doesn't just affect parents of school district kids. It affects our whole community. And I'm a firm believer that education is a foundation of any viable community. And I believe that is the case for our community too. Having a very strong public education in our community means the following to me, and I'm going to give an illustration that I love to give, and people that are around me are probably tired of hearing, but I'm going to tell you how I think it would work. We have a great town that we live in, and when you get beyond the fact that it's the most beautiful place in the world, you get into the fact that we have great arts. A lot of that happens in the courthouse square. We have great retail in our community, and we have great businesses in our community. We have great medical in our community. And I would argue that that is all standing on a solid public education system, because if you think about the quality of people that we want coming to start businesses here and to practice medicine or any other kind of profession, the very first thing that when somebody is going to move to a community looks at is public education and how good the school districts are. What's the rating of the school district? And so That's no different for us. So let's take the example of a young neurosurgeon with a family that wants to come to our community and is being recruited by the hospital. Well, the very first thing that he and his wife, or she and her husband, are going to do is they're going to look at education, and they're going to try and see what the quality of education is. So regardless of whether you have a child in this district, I believe that even if you're a retiree, that this is important. And I think that it also affects not only the quality of living, but it also affects the real estate values in our community.
Another question here, how long will the override fund last?
So all override initiatives last for 5 years. That was the question. How long will the override last? So it would last for 5 years.
Taper off over 3.
And then tapers off over the 3 years after.
Yep. So a total of 8 years. But it cuts down, after the 5th year, it cuts down a third, a third, and a third. All right. All right. We have one more question here in the room.
Can't the community just start a donation drive to raise teacher salaries?
I don't really know how to answer that
Yeah,
one.
there's some tricky legalities with that. It's actually not legal. I mean, there are ways to support, but like for example, the foundation can't just give teachers a raise.
So the question in the room is, can't the community just start a drive to try and raise teacher salaries? And the answer to that is legally, we can't do that. So it has to be an initiative like the one that we've got before you, that the Board of Trustees has put on the ballot, and that is the 8% override initiative.
Just one more question here for Jim, I guess.
Sure.
Next week's event, is it for everyone? Can parents just show up and help?
So the question is, next week's event, our drive-through sign and car magnet pickup, is for anyone in the community who would like to show their support for the override. We have it staffed already. We've got a lot of wonderful community members who are coming out in support of this event. Anyone who wants to pick up a yard sign or a magnet or just get more information about the override and what we're doing can come out to that event.
Nothing would make us happier than to be able to hand out all of the yard signs and all the magnets next Wednesday evening and just paint the town with the initiative and get the word out. And please make sure that you're active on social media and Facebook and Instagram, like we mentioned. We really would like you to be active in your support for us in social media. All right, I think if we don't have any more questions, I think that does it for this evening. Thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your family life. We know how that is, and we just are very excited about our initiative and what we've got planned ahead. And hopefully we'll be able to tell you about another event soon in the future. And please pay attention to social media and our website for all of those activities forthcoming.
All right. Thank you. Have a great night.